Mom Hacks, episode number 39. My name is Krista, and I'm your host. It's November 1st, 2023, and today I'm thrilled to have another super fun guest on the show. She's a mom, an attorney, a motherhood coach, nervous system expert, and host of the Calm Mom podcast. Her name is Michelle Grosser, and we met earlier this year at Mom 2.0, which, if you listened to episodes 33 and 37, you know what an amazing experience I had. Michelle is a mom of two. She lives in Miami. And when she told me she has a podcast called The Calm Mom, I knew I needed to check her out. Because I enjoyed getting to know her at Mom 2.0, naturally, I had to stalk her socials and tune into her podcast to learn all the things about calm parenting. I was so impressed by the simple yet effective methods she shares. I knew she was a perfect fit to bring on this show. We had such a great in-depth conversation that this is going to be a two-part episode with the second half rolling out next week. Now get ready to take some notes because this episode is chock full of tools we can all start using immediately to take that proverbial chill pill and be the calm, loving parents we truly want to be. But before we dive into that, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, Mama. I started this podcast because babies don't come with instructions. As of this recording, I am chasing around a 5-year-old that no amount of Googling, mom groups, or books were able to prepare me for. There's a lot of stuff people don't talk about when it comes to pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and postpartum. And as someone who was previously terrified of all of the above, I'm here to help you pull back the curtain on all of it. And every now and then, it may get a little messy. We may share a little TMI, but that's why you're here, right? My goal is you'll leave every episode feeling refreshed, inspired, and hopeful, knowing you are not on this mom journey alone. Now, there's a lot of subject matter to cover when it comes to mom life, and we are covering it all. So let's jump into this chat with Michelle Grosser, aka The Calm Mom. Michelle, I'm very excited to have you on Secret Mom Hacks today. I know our listeners are going to learn so much from today's conversation because you bring a lot to the table. We met back in May at Mom 2.0, which I'm really excited is coming over to my neck of the woods. In 2024, it's going to be in Nashville next year. So I'm registered. I'm going. Are you coming back?
I sure am. I'll see you there.
Okay, so we'll see each other then. That's awesome. And yay for technology that we can still connect and have conversations like this between these amazing events. But I remember we were sitting at one of the tables in that ballroom, and when you told me that your podcast was called The Calm Mom, I was instantly interested to learn more because I can tend to be high strung and anxious and mom guilt and feeling all of those things. So I was like, I must learn from Michelle. And so since then, of course, I've read up about you. I've listened to some of your episodes, and I just want to read one of the things that I saw, that I've got pulled up on your website. It says you are a law professor turned motherhood coach and podcaster with big dreams, growing kiddos, and the world's sweetest husband. And you are passionate about helping mothers redefine motherhood.
Yeah.
Helping you redefine motherhood. So I'm really stoked for our conversation today and want to talk about all the things that you do. So before I get into the questions, if you wouldn't mind just to share quickly a little bit about where you are, tell us about your kiddos and however much or little of their birth stories that you'd like to share.
Okay, sure. My name is Michelle Grosser. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I am an attorney turned coach. I mean, I am still practicing law, although much less than I was a few years ago. And now most of my time is spent helping moms with their anxiety and overwhelm and burnout as a nervous system expert. So I really help women learn how to reconnect with their bodies and regulate their nervous systems so that we can show up how we want to show up, which is often much easier said than done. I have two daughters. They are 5 and 6.5. We live in Miami. And I've just seen in myself, I was someone who was always like, how you kind of described yourself, right? I was just high strung, type A, always going, overachiever, just getting stuff done. I lived by checklists and I loved all of that stuff. And I was so in my head, logical, analytical. I could spit out a plan and I had the discipline to like follow it to a T. And that served me really well in a lot of ways until I had children and just was so freaking burned out that my body was like, nope. And it shut down. And I had to really just reevaluate so much. And in the last 5, 6 years, have seen so much growth and just a change in my emotional health, physical health, mental health, because I've learned to regulate my nervous system. So I am super passionate about helping other women do the same thing. Birth stories. I have had 2 C-sections, so I know that can be, I don't know, people have opinions about that. I never really did. Thankfully, I went into both of my births just being like, Lord, give me a healthy baby and let me walk out of this thing, healthy. And that happened both times. So I was totally okay with it. But I had preeclampsia with my first. So that's kind of what prompted the C-section. It wasn't, I know a lot of women experience birth trauma or have these really scary things happen during the birth process. That wasn't necessarily my story, but I just had preeclampsia and they're like, we've got to get her out. And at that point, I was massive. I had gained like 70 pounds and I was just like, yes, take her out. As long as she's healthy, I don't really care how or when, just take her out. So it was relatively uneventful, I guess. I think what strikes me most is not necessarily the birth process itself, but the immediate aftermath. And we don't have families that live here in Miami. I grew up in Maine. My family lives there. My husband grew up in Wisconsin. His family lives there. And we just wanted to kind of do this on our own. We lived in a small apartment and we're like, we'll just take the baby home and have it just be us. And I don't know if that was a good idea because we were so like, we had taken all the courses and all this stuff, just like everyone does. But man, we were so unprepared for what the reality of bringing home a baby would be and how much help we would actually need and how we would function in our marriage being so sleep deprived. And it just really rocked us. So I think that was more of the birth story that I remember than the actual event.
It's so funny you mentioned that because in another interview I did earlier this week, she was talking about how if she had known how valuable this would have been, and two, just having the money set aside to do it, but hiring a postpartum doula,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
was like, that. She goes, I've been telling that to all of my friends who, especially if it's not their first child, she's telling them if they have a lot of the baby gear and like all the things, encouraging friends to pile in together and just put cash aside for a postpartum doula. That's like
Yeah.
the best gift you could give a mom,
Yes. Yeah.
especially bringing an additional kiddo into the mix. So yes, the postpartum it's an interesting awakening for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So many transitions you don't anticipate.
No, no.
Yeah.
Well, can you share some insights on this concept of calm parenting and how it differs from traditional parenting approaches? Because, of course, we all were raised by different families who they had different experiences with their upbringings. And so
Mhm.
often the way we were parented tends to be how we parent.
Yeah.
And so, until you realize like, wow, maybe this thing that I observed, like I'm fine, I feel like I turned out okay, this should be a joyful experience, this is an exciting
Mm.
experience. So how can I make this enjoyable for both of us when it comes to disciplining and just teaching this little human how to be a human, how to be a kind, good human.
Yes.
So, yeah, I would love to hear your definition of calm parenting and just how it differs from traditional approaches.
Yeah. So I'll just caveat, I am not a parenting expert by any means. I'm a nervous system. expert, but I think that relates so much to parenting. So I think the research shows that whether you choose gentle parenting or conscious parenting or what peaceful parenting, whatever you want to call it, in longitudinal studies, that doesn't actually make too much of a difference. The biggest difference is consistency. So whatever method you choose that seems to align with your family's values and what feels right for you is awesome, as long as you are consistent in applying that method. So I don't know if calm parenting per se is like a strategy or philosophy, but for me, what it means is that as the adult in that relationship, I take accountability and responsibility for my own nervous system regulation, for my own emotions, for the actions that I take when those emotions become the bigger ones or the more uncomfortable ones, or I notice I'm starting to feel triggered. And through that, we really help to teach our children to co-regulate. We actually share a nervous system with our kids until they're 7 years old, which means that they feed off of our energy and the state of our nervous system so much during those first 7 years. So they can sense, right? Like our anxiety is up, their anxiety goes up. We're feeling down and out, right? They'll feed off of that. We're feeling kind of edgy and irritable. We'll notice that they're kind of showing up edgy and irritable. So there's a huge connection between both of those nervous systems as our children start to grow. So that's kind of the physiological side of it. And then we also want our children, we just want to model for them, right? What it looks like to express our emotions in healthy ways, what it looks like to listen to our body's cues of how we're feeling, and what we can do when we notice we're starting to get really mad or really sad, right? Ways that are healthy to kind of deal with those emotions. And that's really what I can help women learn how to do. And I always, say as often as I can, like my podcast is called The Calm Mom, but I like struggled so much in choosing to name it that because I did not want to be part of what I think is a problem in moms expecting or thinking that they have to be calm all the time, because I think that's BS. And I think it's just not possible. So if you're holding on to this idea that to be a good mom, I have to be calm all the time, just let that go because you are a human being and you are supposed to experience the full range of emotions. The catch with that is that when I am angry or when I am sad or when I'm feeling burnt out, when I have tools and know how to regulate my nervous system, I don't get stuck there. So maybe I notice something's triggering me and I'm feeling really upset. I now have tools. I can now expand my capacity where, man, it just takes me 90 seconds to regulate and get back to a place where I'm feeling calm and connected and in control instead of it, derailing the rest of my day or week or however else it would be when we don't have tools to deal with that stuff.
Now, let's take a quick break. Hey, Secret Mom hackers. Are you a budget-savvy family looking for a financial tool that can help you take control of your spending and savings? Well, I've got something fantastic to share with you. Cube Money. Cube Money is the ultimate budgeting solution that's tailor-made for families who want to manage their money with ease and precision. Here's why our family loves it. It's just like the envelope system we all know, but digitized. Imagine the simplicity of old school envelope budgeting, but with a modern twist. Cube Money digitizes the envelope system, allowing you to allocate funds to specific spending categories right from your smartphone. It's like having a set of virtual envelopes for groceries, entertainment, and more, all in one app. The whole family benefits. Cube Money isn't just for individuals. It's designed to accommodate the needs of your entire family. You can set up sub-accounts for your spouse and kids, helping everyone stay on the same financial page. It's a powerful tool for teaching financial responsibility to your children. Stress-free savings. Planning for the future is a breeze with Cube Money. You can easily allocate funds for savings goals, whether it's a family vacation, a new home, or an emergency fund. It's all about turning your financial dreams into reality. So if you're ready to simplify your family's budgeting, track your spending with precision, and achieve your financial goals, give Cube Money a try. Visit their website at Cube Money to learn more. That's QUBE money.com to learn more and use the discount code SecretMomHacks, all one word, SecretMomHacks, to get 2 months of their premium or family plans for free. Cube Money, on a mission to see you live more and worry less. Try Cube Money today. Now back to the show.
We all know parenting can be quite overwhelming sometimes. So, what strategies can you share or techniques that listeners can use to maintain that sense of calm amidst the chaos?
I think the first thing is just that as moms, as busy moms, as women in Western culture, we are just so disconnected from our bodies. And you were talking about the ways in which we're raised. Like, it just wasn't a thing in the 80s and 90s for people to be like, how does your body feel? Like, what is that? Like, we didn't talk about that stuff, right? Even like things like our intuition as moms, or just these like nudges that we get. The thing is that our bodies are always communicating with us. Always. They're always trying to send us messages in the form of somatic cues. So things that our bodies will actually do to be like, hey, I'm getting overwhelmed, or hey, this doesn't feel right, or hey, this doesn't feel fair, or this is stressing me out, or this is making me angry. And we are just a culture that gets these messages. How do they show up? Maybe it's a headache. Maybe we notice tension in our jaw, like we're waking up and there's just like we're grinding our teeth at night, or our jaw just feels so tight. I know for me, when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed and taking too much on, like my jaw is there's so much tension there. My neck, my shoulders, they just like go right up to my ears, and I'm just holding all of that in. You might experience heaviness or tightness in your chest, or that pit in your stomach when you're experiencing anxiety. Maybe you notice your heart rate increases, or your breath changes and becomes more shallow. And if we notice these things, we tend to either ignore them because we're too busy, right? It's like, yeah, I feel all of this anxiety going on in my body, but I got to make the lunch, and I got to do the laundry, and I got to do all this stuff, while our brain is sounding the alarm like, hey, something's going on here that you need to address. Or we're just so out of touch that we don't even notice it. And we felt that way for so long that we're like, this is just how I feel, right? We don't even notice that there's something going on. And we've become a society that instead of listening to the message that our body is sending us, we just kill the messenger. So it's like, I got a headache, I'm going to take an Advil, right? Or whatever. It's like, but no, there's something deeper under that. So noticing what your somatic cues are when you're starting to become dysregulated is really the first step to being able to do something about it. If we don't know what's happening, we can't do anything about it, right? Awareness always precedes choice. So noticing what are your somatic cues, and really slowing down to even setting a timer, and maybe in the morning or in the afternoon, you just do a quick body scan, head to toe, and be like, where am I noticing I'm holding tension? Where am I noticing pain today? Where am I noticing these types of things? And what might my body be telling me in that? Do I need to slow down? Is there a conversation I'm avoiding that I really need to have? Is there something that my husband is doing that's driving me freaking bonkers, but I just haven't sat down and spoken to him about it yet, right? And our body will communicate this to us. So I like to think of it, and I teach my kids this too, is like a stoplight. When I'm at green, I'm just regulated, I'm super present, I'm super connected. I'm using the learning brain, the part of my brain, the prefrontal cortex, that allows me to just see other perspectives and be open-minded and communicate with my full range of vocabulary and mental faculties, the things that make me a good human being and a good mom. And then when I start to move into this yellow light zone, that's when I start noticing my somatic cues. That's when my kids are starting to irritate me, and I'll notice the tone of my voice kind of changes, or my breath changes, or I just feel this tension building up. And we want to have tools when we're noticing we're starting to become dysregulated to help us discharge whatever emotional energy is there and then regulate. And then if we don't do that, right, that's when we get into this red light zone where we have these outbursts and this just emotional volatility, or we just shut down and we're like, I'm so burnt out, I'm so dissociated or disconnected. And those are states where our bodies we're in that lizard brain where we're not really in control of what we're doing and we're just surviving.
I feel like we talked about this very briefly at Mom 2.0, but remind me, I feel like you shared some type of practice when you're feeling, I can't remember what it was. It was something about chest, so like tapping or something like that. When you're feeling either overwhelmed or like you're starting to go into that yellow light state, what is something that you can do to step away and to help just regulate those feelings and emotions?
Yeah. So the first thing is just to understand that our body doesn't speak a verbal language. So we can, I mean, we've all done it, right? You're like, just calm down, or, it's not a big deal, or you have to go give a big presentation or something at work, and you're like, you got this, you're prepared. But your body doesn't really seem to respond to that. Your heart's still racing and your mind's still going, and our body does not speak a verbal language. So we can say all of these things, we can work on our mindset. But the reality is only 20% of the nerves in our body actually run from our brain down to our body. So the other 80% of all of the messaging going on inside your body, you have afferent nerves that run from your body up to your brain. So if 20% of the messaging is like, calm down, it's not a big deal, you can handle this, you got this, but 80% is panicking, freaking out, I'm so angry, whatever, I don't feel safe, you're just not going to find a lot of power in telling yourself to do these certain things. How does your body communicate? Your body communicates through movement. It communicates through breath. It communicates through sound. It communicates through touch. So you want to have tools where you can communicate to your body through those things what it is that you're trying to convey, which ultimately is safety. If your body feels safe, it will be able to return to regulation. It doesn't need to be on alert for some sort of threat or some sort of danger, which is ultimately what it is when we're in that sympathetic state of being anxious or irritated or however it's coming out. So what are some tools? Breathing is an awesome tool. And I know that everyone talks to moms about like, take a breath. And I know oftentimes it feels like, okay, I get it, but I don't know if that really helps in the moment. So what I like to teach moms or to keep in mind when it comes to breathing is really, the exhale is really more important than anything else. You want to lengthen the exhale. Lengthening our exhale signals to our body that we are not running from a lion or a tiger or whatever would happen, right? If our breath is more shallow and we're preparing for fight or flight, which is a stress response. So things like box breathing, where you're just doing the same count of breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding. So you could do that for 5 counts. Breathe in, hold for 5, out for 5, hold for 5, and just continue until you notice a shift. That's great if you have time to like kids, I'm going to take 5, and then you can go do that and come back. In the moment, my favorite tool it's called a physiological breath. And it's a really powerful tool that with just like 2 or 3 breaths can really help regulate your nervous system. So it's a breath in through your nose, and then a second short breath in through your nose, and then you exhale through your mouth. So I don't want to breathe into my microphone. All you guys listening, it's probably really gross. But you just breathe in through your nose, quick additional inhale through your nose, and then out slowly through your mouth. And really, your body will respond in like 2 or 3 breaths, and you'll notice a shift in your nervous system. So that's breath. Movement. A lot of times when I am feeling anxious in particular, that's just misplaced energy in my body that's got to go, right? If I continue to suppress it, it's like holding that beach ball underwater. And that takes so much time and energy and effort that we don't even realize we're expending to hold all of that energy in. So if you're noticing you're feeling anxiety in particular, my favorite tool for me and for a lot of my clients is just shaking. So you literally just shake. You can put on your favorite music, and within 30, 60, 90 seconds, depending on the depth of that anxiety and energy, just shaking out your arms, your hands, your shoulders, shaking out, standing up and shaking out your legs, dancing, if that feels like a good way to shake for you, really lets a lot of that energy move and release. And you'll notice that afterwards, you'll feel so much better. If you're someone who tends to have ruminating thoughts and looping thoughts, and you can get into these cycles of like, you wake up and you're going down a rabbit hole and thinking about all these worst case scenarios and things at 3 a.m, a really effective tool to get out of your head and bring the awareness into your body. And maybe this is what you were talking about, but you can kind of make your hand into a fist and really just tap all over your body, like up and down your arms, up and down your legs. And again, just a minute or 2 of that will really shift your body's awareness from everything going on in your head into the sensations of your body, and can really help slow those thoughts to a place where they're not just going crazy anymore. And then bilateral movement is really powerful for regulating your nervous system. So something like going for a walk, That's bilateral movement. That really helps. You can cross your hands across your chest and just kind of tap on both collarbones for a couple minutes. You can even match that, the side you're tapping on, to move your eyes to that side and then the other side. And that type of bilateral movement stimulates regulation in your brain. So it moves you from the center that's like the alarm and the anxiety and everything going off into a different part of your brain that will help it to feel more safe. So there's so many tools, like you could probably even Google them. I have resources, but those are good ones, I guess, to start.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so fascinating. And clearly, yes, anybody who wants more information, they're going to come to your website and they are going to seek more from you.
Well, that is a wrap for today's episode. I'm so happy Michelle joined us this week. Stay tuned for part 2 of my interview with Michelle for next week. And until then, make sure you check out her podcast, The Calm Mom, wherever you listen to podcasts. You should also check out her blog at michellegrosser.com/blog, where she has oodles of resources for reducing anxiety and stress, to tips for developing powerful routines and emotional empowerment, plus a ton more. Make sure you're following her on all the socials too. You can find those as well as the link to her blog in today's show notes over at secretmomhacks.com/episode 39. I'm curious what your favorite part of today's interview was. I really hope you're walking away inspired with tips for either yourself or that new mom you know. If that's the case, please subscribe for free if you haven't already. Give me a 5-star rating and leave a review sharing your favorite takeaway so far. Don't forget to stop by secretmomhacks.com where you can find transcripts, resources, and more. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and until then, you've got this, mama.